what's kind of coming next? Or maybe not coming next, but like what are some of the other things that are maybe less commonly implemented right now that are starting to bubble up a bit more?
Yeah. And we think about, and there's no precise science here, but we like to think about connecting the dots of what is borderline inevitable. So within, let's say, AI and banking, I could probably give you, 50 use cases that are pretty cool. And there's a really strong handful of them that I would say there's a 0% chance that any bank in 5 years that's still in business is not doing this. And those are more of the inevitable use cases. So in the case of sales, I'm going to try to think through with you, what are the ones that are inevitable? And I've got two that I think fit that bill. In other words, they're being tinkered with enough and implemented enough, and the tech seems strong enough within the B2B sort of technology world for it to feel as though it's going to be very hard for these to not be the norm in the enterprise within a couple of years. So two of them to break out. One of them we could call sort of research. So I mentioned before that idea of scoops, using AI to kind of figure out the scoop on XYZ. That's increasingly being done for creating all kinds of context around specific accounts. Where they might be in buy cycles, if they have product launches coming up, any context that could be useful for us is now something that even OpenAI, frankly, for some sales teams is kind of a useful tab to have open when you're trying to dig through these things. So there's research generally, which is researching accounts you might hit up, researching accounts you already penetrated into, and you just want more context. You want to know who the buyer personas are, who has different roles and has power for certain kind of purchases, whatever the case may be. So research broadly, I think might turn into a thing where, within 3 or 4 clicks, we kind of have the 7 bullet point version of everything we need to know about this deal, and maybe everything we need to know about this person we're about to have a call with in 7 minutes. So I think research is a thing that I think the manual parts of which are going to start going the way of the dinosaurs. It feels very, very hard for that to go any other way. The other side of this is copywriting. So, there have been, and going back half a decade, we've got founders doing email subject line testing with AI, going way back. There's companies like Persado that are doing landing page testing stuff. And I've talked to some people over there, kind of interesting technology. Not entirely wielded towards sales, at least for the time being. Certainly wasn't how they were founded, but maybe they can make that pivot. But there's even people with the OpenAI tabs open saying, okay, give me a permutation of this email, except I've already had 2 coffees with this guy, so we're pretty chummy. And their biggest goal is to make sure that their industry knows about them before this big Gartner conference. And it's not going to be something I want to send immediately, but if it can do 85% of the legwork, and God knows a decent follow-up email can be a half-hour project, even if it's short. In fact, I might argue the shorter, the harder, Abraham Lincoln style, if you will. And so totally. The idea of my next LinkedIn prompt, my next email prompt, potentially being sent automatically, but in this particular case, we're talking copywriting, being drafted automatically based on context I've entered or that has been gleaned from the call, I think is also rather inevitable. So this goes for our cold outbound, which I think is going to get nuts. Like, I have no idea what the world's going to be like in 3 years, but at some point, brother, me and you and everybody else under the sun is going to get the kind of personalized email in their inbox that only like your cousin who you hang out with every 3 weekends could possibly write to you. Like, those things will be what is in your inbox. That's actually what marketing's going to be in like 3 years.
Oh, dude, I can.
Yeah,
I'll show you some things after the podcast here.
Oh, cool.
I've got some of that stuff that it's semi-manual in that you have to set up the
I'd love to check it out.
And the personalizations. I'll show you. I'm doing some, like, I wrote 639 personalized first lines last night at a click of a button, and it took me about prompt engineering.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we've talked about this on the podcast, so I don't want to go super.
Sure. Yeah,
I'll show you after. Yeah.
It's a place we're going, right? So for me, copywriting, there's not going to be a genie going back in the bottle with copywriting. So copywriting and research, however, I'm drawing the distinction because Fortune 100 is where I hang out, and the people that sell to the Fortune 100 is where I hang out. That 1,000 interviews, that stuff doesn't feel as though it's really deep in the game outside of maybe your Googles of the world. It doesn't really feel like it's deep in the game in the enterprise. However, it feels like it's going to make it there. So we've got two that are pretty well embedded, and then we've got two that are coming up. The really important distinction to say, and I'll cap it here, is that all four of these have one thing in common, and that is that the user has no real context or interaction with AI proper. So as you may be well aware, 7 years ago, you want to do something fancy-dancy with copy generation or cleaning of data, somebody's going to get their hands dirty with Python. Somebody's got to know some linear algebra around here. And that's not a great way to get adoption, because salespeople generally aren't that good at writing Python because they get paid to do something else, which is get ink on paper, which is a pretty important skill, actually. And so all four of these things have the same thing in common that AI going to the mid and the small market is, which is that really the complexity is completely hidden behind the vendor. And that's what's going to allow for a ton of adoption in the coming 2-3 years.
I'm totally with you. Like the work that I've been doing, I think is like I'm doing it because I understand data models, I understand the sales strategy, I understand the tools available and how to like put together all these sales plays. But as soon as the AI has full understanding, or full, I don't want to say I'm going like
anthropomorphize the tech.
But once you could teach it to understand the importance of this keyword in a conversation, right? That kind of the ability to have that kind of scale and look at all the conversations and see, okay, it went this direction. You're very easily going to be able to surface all of these insights, all of these things that humans would be looking at in our Salesforce dashboards, but we'd miss these random outliers that are the indicators that, oh, this is the one thing that. And so I think the work that I'm doing now in 3 years is going to be fully automated.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah. And again, it's guys like you that are tinkering with it right now. It's not, Aflac's not rolling this stuff out in a big way, but I think you do enough tinkering, it becomes normal enough in the scale ups, and it's going to have to make its way upstream. So exciting times for sure.